Thank you for staying with Metropole Business Center. This is Tech Tuesday, where we talk matters of technology. And now we shall be looking into the health tech space impacting Africa's retail pharmacy market through technology. And Kenya and Nigeria-based health tech startup Shelflife is serving 1.4 million patients, on target to be one of the largest global pharma supplies, ensuring better access to key medicines and reduce costs for pharmacies in 14 cities across Kenya and Nigeria. But the question we ask today is, how does the telemedicine or the telehealth space look like? All right, so before we even go into the guest that we have today, let's have a look at that telehealth data, global telehealth data that we have, and the market value in million USD. And for the year 2020, it was at 83.76, and for forecast for the year 2025, we see that it will go up to 319,192.8. That is the market value in US dollars. And also forecasting 5 years later, the year 2030, we see it doing way much better by 521,774 USD. And joining us today to talk about impacting Africa's retail pharmacy market through technology and the telemedicine space in Kenya and Africa as a whole, we are joined by Ajifa Leiba, who is the lead pharmacist and director of Shelflife at Field Intelligence in Nairobi. Great to have you, Ajifa.
Thank you for having me, Tabitha.
Great. Now, Ajifa, for the sake of our viewers, let's differentiate Shelflife and Field Intelligence, and also help us understand more on what you do and your reach within the continent, because you're in so many cities across Africa.
Yeah. So Field Intelligence is the company. Then Shelflife is like a service. It's a supply service that we offer mainly for like community pharmacies across Africa. So through Shelflife, we are trying to like solve problems and see. Yes. And then of course the sourcing of quality pharmaceuticals for these for these retail pharmacies. And we believe like this is very important because they are like at the forefront of like providing healthcare for the population in Africa. We currently operating in both Nigeria and Kenya. In Nigeria, we are operating in about 14 different states. In Kenya, we are currently in Nairobi, we are in Mombasa, and then we're in Kisumu. We also serve some parts of like Nyanza, that's in Homa Bay and Siaya. And then this month, we are just planning to get into both Nakuru and Eldoret in Kenya. Yeah.
Great. Now, Ajifa, the telemedicine, telemedicine is the practice of medicine using technology to deliver care at a distance. And looking at our data, we have seen that the forecast is expected to grow and do better in the coming years. But Ajifa, how is the telemedicine space like in Kenya, seeing that the pandemic has also played a big role in its growth acceleration? Can you kindly just shed some light on this? Where are we at in the telehealth or telemedicine space in Kenya? Ajifa.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right to say telemedicine is like, it's very great. I mean, we've even seen like more adaptation of it, like especially during the pandemic. We've seen like a lot of startups like venturing into this space. I mean, you're like on top of the numbers in terms of like the growth rate. In Kenya, we are expecting to see in the next 5 years, like the value of that sector to get up to like approximately like 650 million US dollars. In terms of what we've seen, like it's mainly like the regulations around it. Just last year, at the height of the pandemic, the KMPDC, which is the body that is responsible for regulating like healthcare facilities in Kenya, like up to like 20. What we are seeing basically is lectures around like how regulation of this telemedicine can be managed at scale. I think that's going to be like very important in terms of like where we need to get to as a nation in terms of next steps for telemedicine. Yeah.
Great. Now, great shedding some light on that. And now, Ajifa, you bring on board an experience, over the years. You've been with the World Health Organization in Sierra Leone for over 3 years, and you have also worked with the World Health Organization right here in Kenya for about a year now. And now you are with Shelflife. But bringing your experience on board, maybe you can bring us to speed on some of the tools you have in place to drive these, as well as bringing your experience on board. Yes, Ajfa.
Yeah. Yeah. So just taking back from my last response to answer this question. I mean, of course, with the introduction and expansion of digitalization in the Kenyan market, what we've seen basically is that there's going to be like a very big need for like patients to have access to these products at like affordable cost. And it's this need that we've seen as a company, field intelligence to meet in Kenya, and that's how we introduced like Shelflife. Because what we are basically trying to do at Shelflife is to provide a very cheap and less risky way for like retail pharmacies to do business, because with this alternative of like being able to like be on the Shelflife platform, it makes it very easy for them to be able to stay in business. And of course, subsequently, the patient at the end of the supply chain is able to benefit, like whenever they go to the corner shop or to the corner pharmacy in the estate, they're able to have access to the good and quality medicines that they need at any one point in time or the other.
Okay, great. Yes, Ajifan, I would like to understand your business model, the pay-as-you-sell business model, and you have mentioned about cheap or cost-friendly. Maybe you can take us through that. How cheap is it? How cheap is it when you say cheap? And also, you can talk to us about the model in deeper, in deep. So that we get to understand how cost-friendly it is for pharmacies, and also as we get along with this conversation. Yes, Ajfa.
Yeah, so at the core of our service really is like data and technology. And we as a company are making use of these two things to like optimize like the business operations of like the small pharmacies. I mean, you agree with me that these small pharmacies do not have access to sophisticated like data analysis tools, to sophisticated technology to be able to like adequately run their business.
Yes.
So we've asked them to like outsource this to us, and then we offer it to them. In terms of like, I'm looking at us, and I'll focus specifically on the financing part, because as I mentioned to you, like one of the three things we're trying to like solve is like financing. So we look at Shelflife as like a form of like alternative finance for this retail pharmacy. And when I say alternative finance, I'm looking at it from the point of view wherein I consider like the inventory that the pharmacies have to keep us in their shop as like the bulk of what they need to spend money on. So when we come in and take away that burden from them, it's like they do not have to worry about looking for cash from like a bank. They do not have to worry about looking for cash from the SACCO, or maybe going to borrow money from a family member or savings that they have somewhere else. So when you look at like Shelflife as compared to maybe like taking a bank loan, or maybe getting like stock on credit, or even going to buy cash upfront, which is like even worse, we look at it as a very easier way for them to like get their business up and running and also remain sustainable in the market.
Great, Ajfa. So then someone will then want to ask, what are some of the requirements to start being a supplier with you? Take us through some of those requirements that one will have to, have in place to be a supplier with you.
Yeah. So of course, the first and most important thing is that I mean, we only deal with like registered outlets, outlets that have been licensed by the regulator of pharmacy practice in Kenya. That's the Kenya Pharmacy and Poisons Board. So that's like the first thing that we check for. And then in addition to that, we also do the normal KYC due diligence. I mean, of course, we want to know who the owners of the business are. Of course, want to verify their certificates of incorporation, KRA PIN. Just the normal KYC that any business does. And then we also usually ask for like references from previous suppliers that they've had, just to like be able to like determine their test of seriousness.
Okay, great. And someone would also want to maybe have a guide on how much they should resell the drugs as a supplier. Like, do you have a guide on this is the price we give you the drugs for, and this is the price you're supposed to sell them at? Do you have that?
Absolutely, Tabitha. So as I mentioned to you, like at the core of our business is really like data management and data analysis.
Yes.
So we try to partner with the businesses like by using the data to be able to like guide them even on like what they're supposed to stock, the quantities of product that they're supposed to stock. We give them like pricing insights. Because we buy in bulk, we're able to negotiate like very good discounts, and then we pass on these discounts to them. We're also able to use the data to guide them in terms of like product recommendations, in terms of like if we have a pharmacy like in Umoja, for example, we could use like data analysis to like just be able to identify the products that we feel are selling, or like the fast moving products in like Umoja. And we do that like as recommendations for them, like through like our so pharmacy for X in this region, and it's like a fast moving product, and we could recommend that to them. And we've seen like so many pharmacies being able to like increase their sales like through this informed data management and decision making.
Yes, Ajifai, this is a lot of data that you have in place, and for the sake of your customers coming on board, how do you ensure their data privacy and protection when it comes to third-party companies accessing this data?
Yeah. So absolutely, that's also like very key for us as a technology company, because that's like the foundation of our operations. Maybe just to clarify, we do not directly access patients' data. We do not deal directly with patients. We only deal with like shops or businesses, like kind of like a B2B kind of agreement.
Yes.
That's like retail pharmacies or like institutions like that. So in terms of like what we do, of course, we are very compliant with the GDP. Very compliant with things that's both in Kenya and Nigeria. In Nigeria, as a matter of fact, we have we manage like for the government of Nigeria, the Ministry of Health of Nigeria, up to like 4,500 outlets, and like that's like very key in terms of like how being able to prove how we are able to like securely manage the data that we receive from those outlets. Yeah.
Great. So one more question. What happens when a pharmacist does not pay back on time? What are the likely repercussions? This is someone who has come and gotten drugs from you and would like to maybe, sell on their end, but it just happens that they're not able to, pay back on time. What exactly happens, or what are the likely repercussions when it comes to this, Ajifa?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost is like we've tried to set up the business model to make it very easy, almost impossible to pay. Because when we did our analysis of the market, and we've seen like some of the reasons why clients will like struggle to pay, we try to like structure our business model to just eliminate each and every one of those reasons. And that's why we are very intentional about saying that our business is like a pay as you sell. So what that basically means, Tabitha, is that like if I supply a pharmacy like 10,000 shillings worth of pharmaceutical products, I'll come back and do a stock take like a week after, and only invoice that pharmacy for what they've sold. So if that guy has only sold like 5,000 or 3,000 shillings, so what we do is like only invoice them for that 3,000 shillings. And the assumption there is that they already have received that money. Of course, they would have set up their margins, and they've been able to get their profits, and they'll be able to pay the suppliers. So the business model, as I said in the beginning, in itself is set to like make it difficult for them to. I mean, of course, reality is that during that, for example, during the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic crunch of that, like other places, clients to pay within that period. I mean, we have like data-driven payment plans that we try to like clients on that are very flexible at very low rates, that we can be able to like structure their payment over a prolonged period to be able to make very easy for them to like those payments. Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much, Ajifa. Maybe for someone who would like to understand your payment plans, how do they go about that, getting in touch with you guys, Ajifa?
Yeah, so I mean, of course, it's like we always get into like engagements with the clients. I mean, and try to like basically it's like kind of like restructuring their debts, like I mean how much they owe. and then of course try to like come up with an agreement of like the duration in which they'll be able to make that payment. It could be like 6 months, and we have payments plan span like 12 months, depending on what the amount is. Sign it, document, and they get automatic reminders as to when they're supposed to make their repayments. And then yeah, it seems like a lot of them have been able to come back up to speed with this.
All right, thank you, Ajfa. All right, that
thank
has
you,
been...
Thank you, Thabita. Thank you for having me.
Great, Karibu-san. All right, that has been Ajfa Leiba, who is a lead pharmacist and also director at Shelflife. We have been looking at how we can impact Africa's retail pharmacy market through technology. Stay tuned because there's a lot more coming up after this break.